Think history is just boring dates. Think again. If you're ready for the weirdest, funniest side of history, you're in the right place. Let's get strange. Ever heard of the time Oregon tried to solve a whale of a problem with dynamite? It's 1970, Florence, Oregon. An 8-ton sperm whale decides to expire right on the public beach. The smell, let's just say it was legendary. The solution, the Oregon Highway Division decided the best course of action was to pack it with half a ton of dynamite. Their brilliant plan was to blast it into tiny, seagull-friendly snacks. What actually happened was a blubber apocalypse. Huge, stinky chunks of whale rained down, crushing a car a quarter-mile away and sending everyone running. A news reporter captured the whole thing, and the official in charge, with a straight face, said he was confident it would have worked if they'd just used more dynamite. Seriously, the lesson learned wasn't don't blow up whales, it was use more explosives. Oregon, you're a treasure. Think Napoleon Bonaparte, the military mastermind who conquered most of Europe. Now, picture him being utterly defeated by a horde of fluffy bunnies. No, I'm not kidding. It's July 1807. To celebrate a new treaty, Napoleon's chief of staff organizes a massive rabbit hunt. He gets his hands on around 3,000 rabbits for the emperor to hunt. But there was one tiny, crucial oversight. These weren't wild rabbits that would run away in fear. They were tame bunnies from local farms. And for them, a human approaching meant one thing: food time. So instead of scattering, the bunnies charged. A relentless, furry wave swarmed Napoleon and his men, hopping up their legs. The great general, the victor of countless battles, was forced into a frantic retreat, swatting at bunnies as he scrambled back to his carriage. It has to be one of history's most adorable, and definitely most humiliating, military defeats. Boston, January 15, 1919. It's an unusually warm winter day. Suddenly, without warning, a massive storage tank explodes, unleashing over 2 million gallons of crude molasses. Witnesses said the rivets shot out like machine gun fire. A sticky, brown wave, 25 feet high, tore through the streets at 35 miles per hour. It was a literal tsunami of sweetness turned deadly. Buildings were flattened, trolley cars were knocked off their tracks, and tragically, 21 people lost their lives, with another 150 injured. The cleanup was a nightmare. Boston Harbor was stained brown for months. For decades after, residents swore they could still smell the sweet scent of molasses on hot summer days. This bizarre tragedy led to some of the first class action lawsuits in America and prompted major changes in construction and safety regulations. It's a sticky, strange, and somber reminder of one of history's oddest disasters. Ever heard of a grudge that follows you beyond the grave? Let's dive into some wild 9th century papal politics. Meet Pope Stephen VI, who had a serious beef with his predecessor, Pope Formosus. So serious, in fact, that in the year 897, he had Formosus's 9-month-old corpse dug up. He then dressed the rotting body in full papal robes, propped it up on a throne, and put it on trial. Stephen literally screamed accusations of perjury at the corpse, while a terrified young deacon had to hide behind the throne and answer for the dead pope. Unsurprisingly, the deceased Formosus was found guilty. As punishment, his papacy was declared invalid, his fancy vestments were ripped off, the 3 fingers he used for blessings were chopped off, and his body was tossed into the Tiber River. As for Stephen, he was later imprisoned and strangled. I guess you could say karma is a dish best served colder than a corpse on trial. Medieval France, 1386. Justice isn't just for humans. In the town of Falaise, a pig commits a terrible crime. It attacks and kills an infant. But this isn't just a farm accident. The pig is formally arrested, thrown in jail, and put on trial. Can you believe it? They even dressed the pig in human clothes for its court appearance. Some reports say a waistcoat and gloves. Witnesses were called to testify against the pig. A defense lawyer was likely appointed. After hearing all the evidence, the court reached a verdict: guilty. The sentence: public execution by hanging in the town square, carried out with all the ceremony of a human execution. This might sound absurd, but animal trials were a real thing back then. They reflected a belief that all of God's creatures were subject to the same laws. Still, you have to wonder if the pig considered an appeal. Imagine this: Strasbourg, France, The scorching summer of 1518, a woman named Frau Troffea walks into the street and just starts dancing. There's no music, just frantic, non-stop movement. She can't stop. Within a week, dozens of people have joined her. Within a month, hundreds are thrashing and spinning in the streets day and night. But this wasn't a party. People were literally dancing themselves to death from exhaustion, strokes, and heart attacks. The baffled authorities consulted physicians who diagnosed hot blood and prescribed, believe it or not, more dancing. They actually built stages and hired musicians, thinking people could dance the fever out of their systems. Unsurprisingly, this just made everything worse, encouraging even more to join the deadly spectacle. What caused it? Mass hysteria, poisoned bread causing hallucinations. We still don't know for sure. It was a flash mob fueled by psychosis, ending not with applause, but with coffins. Christmas Eve, 1945, Fayetteville, West Virginia. A fire rips through the Sauter family home. George and Jenny Sauter escaped with 4 of their children, but 5 are trapped upstairs. Morris, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty. The house burns to the ground, collapsing into a smoldering pile of ash. But when the ashes cooled, something was wrong. There were no remains. Not a single bone, nothing. The official story. The fire was hot enough to completely cremate them. But George, a former firefighter, knew that was nearly impossible. Then came the strange details. A ladder that was always by the house was suddenly missing. A mysterious phone call right before the fire. And for years afterward, credible sightings of the children were reported across the country. In the 1960s, a photo arrived in the mail, allegedly of a grown-up Louis. Was it a kidnapping? Revenge for George's anti-Mussolini views? The family never gave up, even putting up a billboard that stood for decades, begging for answers. 5 children vanished into smoke. Imagine fighting an army of ghosts. Sounds like a movie, right? But for the Nazis in World War II, this was a terrifying reality, all thanks to the U.S. Army's 23rd Headquarters Special Troops. This top-secret unit wasn't filled with soldiers in the traditional sense, but with artists, designers, actors, and sound engineers. Their battlefield was a stage, and their weapons were illusions. They deployed inflatable tanks, rubber airplanes, and phony artillery pieces across France and Germany. From giant speakers, they blasted the sounds of troop movements and construction, creating the auditory illusion of a massive force on the move. They even set up fake headquarters and sent counterfeit radio transmissions to complete the deception. Their mission was to fool the Germans about Allied troop strength and locations, drawing enemy fire and diverting entire divisions away from real Allied offensives. They saved an estimated 30,000 lives. Their existence remained classified for decades. This was war theater, literally. Picture this: Australia, 1932. World War I is over, and veterans have traded their rifles for plows, settling down as farmers. But a new enemy emerges, one they never trained for. Not drought, not locusts, but 20,000 emus. These giant, flightless birds were on the move, migrating right through Western Australia and absolutely decimating wheat crops. The farmers, many of them ex-soldiers, were desperate and pleaded for help. The government's response: they deployed the actual army. Major Meredith led a small contingent armed with Lewis machine guns, ready to face the feathered menace. What could go wrong? Well, everything. The emus were basically feathered ninjas. They used guerrilla tactics, splitting into small groups and dodging bullets with unbelievable speed and agility. Major Meredith himself said they had the maneuverability of Zulu warriors. After weeks of firing thousands of rounds and barely making a dent in the emu population, the military withdrew in embarrassment. The emus had won. Let that sink in. The Australian Army officially lost a war to birds. London, October 17, 1814. It's just another Monday in the St. Giles parish until a massive brewing vat, holding over 320,000 gallons of dark porter, suddenly ruptures at the Moe and Company brewery. A 15-foot-high wave of dark, frothy beer smashes through the brewery walls and floods the surrounding slum streets. This wasn't a party, it was a disaster. Tenement buildings crumbled, and basements filled instantly with the sticky, boozy tide. Tragically, 8 people drowned in the chaos, most of them women and children trapped in their collapsing homes. Rescue efforts were a mess, partly because of the sheer volume of beer and partly because some locals reportedly started scooping it up for a free drink. The brewery was taken to court but was acquitted, with the court ruling it an act of God. The brewery even got their taxes back on the spilled beer. The smell of stale porter hung over the neighborhood for weeks. A bizarre and tragic day in London's history. It's the morning of June 30th, 1908, in remote Siberia. Suddenly, the sky rips open. A colossal explosion, equivalent to 1,000 Hiroshima bombs, detonates in the atmosphere. It flattens over 800 square miles of forest near the Podkamennaya Tunguska River. The shockwave was so powerful it circled the earth not once, but twice. People were knocked off their feet hundreds of miles away, and for nights afterward, the skies over Europe and Asia glowed with an eerie light. But here's the truly bizarre part. There was no impact crater, not a single one. The leading scientific theory is that a meteor or a piece of a comet exploded miles above the ground. But that hasn't stopped the wilder theories from popping up: a tiny black hole, an alien ship crashing, or even Nikola Tesla testing a secret weapon. Whatever it was, it left an apocalyptic scar on the planet without leaving a single hole in the ground. A cosmic mystery that still baffles us today.